Ga a pawo yin ji ba ji be ji zagi nan ije bo su ku ji tabbata yi nan.
Businesses in Nigeria are actually complying in the payment of the CIT, but I can assure you that, of course, we are not yet there yet. But you see, it's something that is statutory. Every company operating is supposed to pay this particular kind of, tax to the coffers of the federal government. We're not yet there, but we're making a lot of progress, because the way it is now, you cannot operate in Nigeria as a company if you don't have what we call the TIN. That's the taxpayer identification number. You cannot operate even a bank account. So that is to say, if you have a company, we have our own ways of checking to see that all companies that are registered in Nigeria comply. And FIRS, as it is today, we have a lot of departments where we do some vital checks to make sure that every company operating, is brought on board to pay his taxes. You see, that is why the laws have made so many provisions. You see, under the Finance Act 2019, there are what we call the rates of CIT payments in Nigeria. So any company that is registered and has a turnover of less than 25 million naira is exempted from paying any form of taxes. They pay at 0%. But if a company has a turnover of above 25 million naira but below 100 million naira, they pay at 20%. And companies with turnover of over 100 million naira, they pay at 30%. And don't forget, when I say companies, I'm talking of limited liability companies. Those are the ones that are supposed to file and pay to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Companies that are, enterprise-based or individuals, those are to file their own returns with the state's boards of internal revenue, which is not within the purview of the FIRS. Even though we have a joint umbrella that we call the Joint Tax Board, where we have the FIRS at the top and the state's internal revenue services, together. So for those that are doing business and not filing, they should just, we've not really caught up with them yet, but there's really nothing difficult there. This is statutory. Those are the kind of monies that we collect to provide all the good things that you see, all over the country. The Federal Inland Revenue Establishment Act, in its first schedule, give FIRS the right, in its first schedule, that mandate to collect, companies' income tax on behalf of the federal government. And if you go to section C21 of the LFN 2004 as amended, that also gives FIRS to collect that particular kind of tax, that's the CIT. So they will have laws backing, that particular type of tax. Overs are below 25 million naira. Those by the laws are not supposed to pay any form of taxes, but they are mandated statutorily to come and file, so that when they will not nurture them, so that when they grow, they begin to pay. But if you're an enterprise, it's not that you don't pay taxes, you pay, but to the state's internal revenue services. That is what I'm trying to say. If you go to section 40, like I mentioned earlier, of the Companies Income Tax Act, if the turnover is above 25 million naira, but below, if it is 25 million naira and below, that is when if it is below 25 million naira, you pay at 0%, which means you don't pay. But if it is above 25 million naira, but less than 100 million naira, as a turnover of a particular company, he pays at 20%. But if it is above 100 million naira, you now pay CIT at 30%. Are you getting it? And there's even a relief to that, because any company that is categorized as big, if he's been able to file and pay 90 days before his final due date, there's even a relief of 1%, on the total tax he's going to pay. And if it is a small company and he comes to file and pay before the due date, he even has a 2% relief. What you say, we operate what we call the self-assessment regime kind of taxation in Nigeria. That is to say, a company is allowed to go and do its businesses, and at the end of its accounting year and period, which is normally January to December, he's supposed to go and make up his accounts, come voluntarily to file and pay what he feels it is his tax based on the profit that he has made, to come and pay to the service. You understand? So, and the government now gave them a grace of 6 months after that accounting period to come and file and pay. Which means if you have a company with accounting period of January to December, you now have up to June of the following year to come and pay. And even the Finance Act is even so gracious now, because we want to ease it up for taxpayers. You can even pay in installments. But your last installment must be paid on or before that due date of June. Taxation is a compulsory levy imposed on companies, so we have a law backing it, and we do a lot of sensitization. We do a lot of stakeholder engagements to sensitize them to come and do what it's the obligation to come and do. So if you don't, of course, there are steps to now check all those recalcitrant organizations, for those that don't even pay at all. Even though by the law, we will write to you, we will invite you, we will go there to visit you, to make you see reasons why you should pay your taxes. If you don't pay, we'll have stages. We can raise, because even in the assessment, we have two types of assessments. We have what we call the self-assessment, like the example that I gave you earlier. You go do your business, you do your account yourself. The other assessment is what we call the government assessment, which some of them we can call it BOJ, that's best of judgment. If you are not filing your taxes, and I feel that this is what should be your turnover and the taxes that you're supposed to pay, I can give you a best of judgment. We have a back duty assessment. Back duty means the fact that we say it's a self-assessment, you are allowed to come and file what you feel is right. But of course, you'll be subjected to some kind of, test to see whether the correctness of what you had done or otherwise. If it is otherwise, no hassles, we'll just add back, give you another assessment for you to go and pay. So if we do all that, give you all the time, if you don't pay, of course there are steps. We can go there and enforce it, and we'll have the backings of the law to do that. But in all cases, we don't really want, because we're a customer-friendly organization, if you see us go to enforce, then that is usually the last resort. So surprising for any Nigerian to say that their taxes are not working for them. Let me give you some statistics. When this current administration under our able chairman Muhammad Nami came on board, the system was even in some kind of not too formal and all that, but he did so much because he came up with some cardinal goals that he wanted to achieve, that he wants to even strengthen the institutional framework of the service. And as at the time he came on board, our collections for the year is hovering somewhere around 5 trillion. But in 2020, we were able to make 6.4 trillion naira collection. In 2022, last year, we collected over 10 trillion naira. Very, very unprecedented. So for any Nigerian to say his tax money is not working, I don't want to believe so. Because it is this money that is being shared amongst the 3 tiers of government, the federal, the states, and the local government. That is what is being used to pay salaries. That is what is being used to construct roads and bridges. That is what is being used to even fund our security apparatus in the country. So taxpayers' money is really working. So if Nigerians, because all of us, not everybody is compliant, no doubt about that, the compliance level is still not very impressive. But if every Nigerian should pay his or her taxes as at when due, of course you get to see more dividends of your monies working for you.